Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fan Interference with Wichita Wingnuts manager Pete Rose Jr. Fan Interference is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to share your comments and questions with Pete about the Wingnuts, baseball, or sports in general, or just seek Pete's wisdom about life events that are going on. In this week's episode, Pete talks to us about a little Major League Baseball with us. He shares his enthusiasm and optimism about what's going on with the Wingnuts, and Pete helps a dad to connect with his kids while he's out on the road. So let's get right to Fan Interference. So let us welcome back Manager Pete Rose Jr. So Pete, let's first of all begin if you have any team updates you'd like to provide for us.
No, we're moving right along. We're just out there working hard, trying to get better. Everybody's pretty much the same. We got a big series. Well, I wouldn't say a big series, but we got our another home series starting at home tonight against Laredo. We have 4, and then I think maybe Texas or somebody comes in after that. That shows you how I just look for day to day. But we're all good, man. Everybody's good. Everybody's starting to get healthy. Everybody's starting to, or stay healthy, starting to get their feet underneath them, and we're going to get this thing rolling here soon.
Well, that is great to hear. I know fans are excited about that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let us head into our fan questions. We first of all begin with John from Wichita, who asks, he says, Pete, I read that Ichiro is like 20 hits away from being the all-time hits leader between his time in Japan and the MLB. He's not really the hits leader, though, right?
Yeah, negative. It's you're asking a Rose a question about a Rose, but if you ask my dad, he'd tell you that he could probably go over and get 2,000 hits in the Japanese league right now at 75. So that's definitely a negative on the Rose thing. But you know what a great hitter Ichiro is, and I love to watch him hit. I mean, he just does so many different things, and my dad loves watching him hit, and what a career, and I mean, for him to have that many hits, I know how tough it was just to get a couple, let alone 4,000 or something. But what a first class guy, and you're just happy for him to creep up there. But we're going to stick with the ATHL. That would be my dad, Peter Edward Rose. So we'll stick with that. But good question. I like it.
Clay from Mays would like to know, what are some things that you find you are having to adjust to as a manager in the American Association?
I'll tell you what, 12-hour bus rides and scheduling problems. I mean, I'll tell you what, man, we went to Joplin, which was 3.5 hours, and then we took a 12-hour trip to Fargo, North Dakota to play 3 games, and took a 12-hour trip right back home. So it's just, and we passed 2 cities in the league, Sioux Falls and Sioux City on the way back, and Kansas City. So that's 3 teams on the way back. So I'll tell you what, I mean, I've been on some long bus rides, but holy moly, I'll tell you what, we left last night at 5 and got in at 6 this morning, and we got to strap it on tonight at 7. So if the guys that are scheduling this league, if they've never been on a bus for 12 hours and then try to get up and go to work the next day without an off day or a rest day or whatever you want to call it, I think maybe they need to reconsider. But I would definitely say those 2 things right out of the gate are definitely a big adjustment for me.
Plus, you have to play out in the heat of Wichita after a long bus ride, too. So
yeah, hey, I'll take the heat any day of the week, but I'll tell you what, I'm not a big bus sleeper, so to get my probably an hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep last night. I'd rather sit there at 100-degree weather and on that turf and play any day of the week as opposed to getting on that thing for 12 hours.
Jim from Wichita would like to know from you, Pete, it has been a tough start for the team. What do you do to turn it around?
That's a great question. I just think that, guys here, they're just trying to do too much. And I think once the guys can just kind of go out and be themselves and we've made mistakes in the game to where it's guys trying to not just get the out, but to get the double play as well, or not make a good pitch, make the perfect pitch, not get a ground ball, but get a double play ball. So I think everybody's just kind of settling in, and it's people got to realize we're only a week into this thing, and it's not like we're 2 months into it. I think if we're 2 months into it, we might want to start thinking about doing something different, but we're a week into it. I love what I see with our kids and the way they go about their business. I've said that before, but I just think we're trying to do a lot. We're trying to be somebody that we're not, instead of just going out and just being yourself and just do what you can do and just control what you can control. And I think once we get back to that, I want to say full-time, I think we're going to be right where we need to be. But, it's a good thing to have when guys do that because you know that the guys care about one another. And, I've been on really good teams. I've managed really good teams. And for some reason, they always start to seem like they start off kind of, I don't want to say losing, but not winning the way that they're supposed to or the way that you think that they should. So we're going to ride the ship out and, but it just says a lot about our character of our kids and how they, generally care about one another. They love being around each other in the clubhouse. So once we can just kind of start being ourselves, I think we're going to be okay.
I would think that every team goes through a slump at some point during the season. Do you find that it's more magnified when is at the start of the season?
I would just say it's magnified because of, I guess maybe Wichita has never been in a slump or, that type of deal. It's kind of like the Yankees. If the Yankees go in a slump at the beginning of the year, everybody thinks that they're just going to, fold and take it to the house. But I could just say I'm glad it's happening now as opposed to happening in August or late July or even early September. So if we get this out of the way, because you're not going to win them all and you're sure not going to lose them all. So if we can get it out of the way and, maybe the first week of the season, and maybe that's past us now, so maybe we can start getting back to playing wingnut baseball.
Mike from Hutch would like to know, I bet fans are surprised at how the pitching staff has struggled. Is this just an anomaly, or are you genuinely concerned?
Not concerned at all. I mean, when you have a group that's veteran-ridden and the talent that they possess, I mean, big league time up and down the board. You got Broshears, you got Harvey, you got Ruff, Medina. You sit back and you just kind of let them find their way, and it's obvious that that's what's going to happen. I mean, John Link threw a heck of a game yesterday in Fargo, getting back to himself. I mean, you got to realize something when you see guys that are at the bottom of the stat chart as far as in pitching and hitting, and then you look at their career numbers, and their career numbers should say that they should be at the top. Well, you know what? That's not going to be there for long. So it's just kind of a if you want to call it an anomaly, I'll call it just kind of getting our feet underneath us, and like I just said before, just going out and just doing what we can do, and not trying to be too much. But Link threw really good yesterday. Caps on the mound tonight. We got Tim Brown. Tim Brown he's pitched 2 great games, and you can't say enough about him. I mean, he's just a steady Eddie type of guy that goes out and gets after it. And then you got Medina coming behind him to where Eddie's due for a good outing, and Leesman just kind of coming back from surgery. So I think we're going to be all right. I mean, I really do. I love our pitching staff. I think our bullpen's done. They haven't been perfect. Our offense hasn't been perfect. We haven't been perfect, and nobody else has. But Harvey threw well yesterday. Ruff threw well yesterday. Frankie Reed's throwing well. We got some guys that, I mean, Broshears. I mean, you just don't expect these guys to go out and do what they're doing now to where they're going to get back to doing what they normally do. And once that happens, we're going to be right where we need to be.
See, nothing to be worried about out there.
Nothing. No, I'm not worried at all. I'm more worried about that 12-hour bus ride to Laredo than I am about the pitchers. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that one. Not blaming you on that one at all. Henry from Salina would like to know if you're a manager who likes the low-scoring games or the big run affairs.
You know what? I like both as long as we win. It doesn't matter. We can score 100 and beat them 100 to 99. I know that's bad for the pitchers, but if we win 1-0 too, that works as well. I mean, obviously I'm an offensive guy, so I like it when our guys swing the bats. But you know what? Like yesterday, we could have won 1-0 with the way Link pitched, or 4-3 or whatever. It ended up being. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not one of those types to where I don't think it's going to fit us. Either way. I mean, obviously you would love to, put runs on the board, because if we can put runs on the board like we did yesterday with our staff, I think, our chances are going to be pretty good. But even so, I think if we only put one up with our defense and our pitching staff, I think we're going to put ourselves in a good position as well.
I'll tell you what, if you have the 100-99 game, I think you'll be having the 12-hour game.
Hey, at least I won't be on the bus, and that'll be okay with me.
Mark from Wichita would like to know how you like the surface the Wingnuts play on, and do you think that makes you adjust as a manager?
I understand the turf, but I'm not a big fan of it because, and obviously not excuses, but you got to play different. I think you got to play a little different as an infielder. As far as your instincts kind of they want to take over, and you got to kind of pull that back a little bit with the turf, because I've kind of, seen it in the couple weeks I've been here, to where if you kind of go charge the ball like you do on a natural surface, you may get a kind of a tricky hop. But, it's good because of the weather, obviously all the rain and everything. It's not good for the heat, obviously. It's hot and everything else, but, it is what it is, man. It's turf. I'm an old schooler, so I like the natural surface, and it does change the way you manage a little bit, because balls get to infielders quicker. They get to outfielders quicker. So as far as like contact plays and that kind of stuff, I don't think it changes how you go about it offensively. Just maybe defensively a little bit. I think it changes a little bit, and just kind of getting used to it. I think that's going to be the big part for our players, but. It's okay. I mean, I guess everybody else has got to play on it in the league, so we'll just we'll throw it out there and we'll see what happens.
Heading into some MLB questions for you. Dan from Chicago would like to know, do you find that all these beanball incidents are getting ridiculous? The Mets hit Utley, the Rangers hit Batista. Come on, this was a year ago. Isn't it time to move on?
I think it's just, it's kind of, if you're a new school guy or an old school guy, and obviously I'm an old school guy, to where, I was always taught to just act like you've been there before. Does that mean baseball's not fun? No, it means it's super fun. I'm just not one of those guys to where I don't think you'll ever see me backflip or do any of that other stuff. I think the less emotion you show, the better off you're going to be in the long run. But that's just how I was brought up and how I was taught. But emotions sometimes get the guys, and if they're gonna. I think it's blown out proportion by the media, to be honest with you. I think if they wouldn't make such a big deal about it, I don't think you would hear about it as much. Was Chase Utley's play dirty? I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of, you look at old baseball clips and videos, and my dad used to go in there hard. I used to go in there hard, and obviously you don't go in there with the intention to hurt anybody. I mean, I don't think that's what Chase did, and Chase plays the game the right way, but. If you listen to his post-game comments, he kind of knew it was coming, and it's just kind of part of the game. It's been part of the game. So I don't think that's going to change. I think it's kind of out of hand with the media perspective and how it's covered, but I think the game's just kind of going to stay the game, and you just got to kind of prepare for it, because at some point it's going to happen.
On the media aspect of it, do you think it's been such a big deal just because it was in the National League Championship Series? If this is like an August game, nobody would have even cared about this.
I think it's just because of social media. It's because, every game's televised now. Everything is, everything is scrutined. You got cameras everywhere. I think if it was in August, I think it would have been maybe not as big a deal, but it's still a big deal, because obviously Flores got hurt. He broke his leg. So I think that's what the big deal was. I think if Flores gets up from that and doesn't break his leg, I don't think, they throw behind Chase Utley, and I don't think it's covered as much as it was. But since he broke his leg, that's, I think that's where everybody kind of took it and ran. But it's a different age, man. It's a different age of the game with all the social media stuff and all the cameras and sports centers and Fox and all that other good jazz. So I think that's kind of pushing this thing, the beanball thing, kind of over the top a little bit.
Next up is Connor from Wichita, who has a pretty interesting question. He asks, why don't hitters crouch at the plate like your dad or Ricky Henderson used to? That seemed to really work.
That's a great question, and I got a great answer for him. I grew up idolizing my idol, and that happened to be my dad, and I tried to play like him and hit like him and do everything exactly like my idol. But the thing is, I learned it kind of I would say maybe 96 in the fall, in the off season. So roughly 7 years or so, I couldn't hit from a crouch because I was bigger than my dad, and I kind of he kind of sat me down and said, listen, this was comfortable for me. I need you to be comfortable. And it worked for him. He's smaller than I am. I'm bigger than he, and so I used to start in a crouch and come up. So I think it's a matter of if you're comfortable down there, but if you kind of come up, you're a bigger guy. It's kind of tougher to stay down there. I mean, my dad was 5'10", 5'11". I'm 6'2", so McGuire did it, and McGuire was a big guy, and he was comfortable. But I think it's all about being comfortable, at the plate. And my dad was comfortable there. If you notice from his right-handed side, he's kind of taller than the left-handed side. So, but I wouldn't think a lot of guys would use it just because it's kind of tough to stay down there. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing as far as how to hit, and you kind of come straight out of that, it kind of defeats the purpose. So I'm surprised, or I'm not surprised that a lot of people don't use it. I expected that because I tried it myself and I got the consequences of, how it doesn't work for people.
Interesting. Next up is Lee from Oklahoma City, who says, first of all, Pete, big fan of you and your dad. I find that instant replay is kind of ruining Major League Baseball with delays and nitpicky calls. What do you think?
I couldn't agree any more with them. I think you take the human element out of it. I think, what are they going to do? They're just going to have a strike zone to where it's computerized now. I mean, it's funny. They want to speed the games up, but if you think about it, it's the only sport in the world that doesn't have a clock. That and golf. And, tennis, they have a clock, but, it's amazing on how they want to speed the games up, but you figure out when you watch these, you watch all these replays, I mean, that's what holds the game up. But I think it's, I think you go back the old way, let the umpires call it, and, you go from there, because that's what baseball is. I don't think it's, and then now we just talked about with all the cameras and all the other good jazz and the umpires that are sitting in the command center now. But I've never have, and I don't know if I ever will, just because I think if you take the human element out of it, I think it does the game some injustice. But, who am I to say, if it's good or not? But if you're asking me, which he is, I don't like it one bit. I think they should get rid of it.
Tammy from Wichita would like to know, she says she knew Kevin ran baseball camps during the year. Do you intend on doing that? Because her son would really like to learn a lot from you.
I don't know. I know Kevin was from here, so I think he had that edge as far as knowing everybody around here and being a hometown guy. We've done a Chevrolet camp at the ballpark already. We did that after our 11 o'clock game against Friends back in spring training, and I think they may have one more scheduled for the summer, but I don't know. But it may be something I may look into because I enjoy being around the kids and, just going out and having fun and playing the game of baseball. But, I know I'll be busy in July. I think my son's going to come back up here, and we're going to try to get him into a speed school somewhere to get him geared up for football. So that'll be time-consuming with that and going to the ballpark. But I would love to do something like that. And, if I figure out if we can make something happen, I'll definitely, let everybody know, and we can make that happen.
Steve from Wichita asks, he says, Mr. Rose, do you have suggestions on how I can improve my discipline at the plate?
Just, the more bats you take, the more discipline you're going to have. But if you're going to, you always look fast. I mean, look fastball, but it's, if you see the ball, and if you really concentrate on seeing the ball, that'll help your discipline. If you're just kind of swinging at motion or starting with motion, worrying about getting started and everything else, as long as you see the ball first, I think your discipline will get a lot better. But you got to have an idea what you're doing up there. I mean, you got to, and I think the more bats you take, you'll start learning the strike zone, what's a ball, what's a strike, what you can hit, what you can't hit. But like I tell my son, just, hey, see the ball first. Well, why do you got to see it? Because that's what you're trying to hit. And I think if you start picking up the ball out of the pitcher's hand, that'll help you start recognizing, what the ball's doing. Is it spinning? Is it cutting? Is it sinking? Is it up, down, in, out? And I think once you start focusing on that, that'll help you make your decision, which is, it's got to be quick, but I think it'll help you a lot. That'll go a long way as far as, seeing it first. But the more bats you take, the more batting practice you take, the more flips you take, it'll just kind of teach you what you can handle, what you can't, and then when you figure out what you can't handle, then you kind of adjust from there. But just keep at it, man. Just keep taking it fast, keep working hard, but concentrate on seeing that ball out of the pitcher's hand, and I think that'll clean up for him.
That's some great advice right there. Adam has a good question for you. He says his son is having to take algebra in summer school because he failed this past school year. Does Pete Rose Jr. do algebra tutoring?
My son would be a better algebra tutor than I am, and he's 9 years old. I studied baseball in high school, so for all you kids out there, and my son has already had this talk. You don't want any kind of tutoring unless it's on some green grass and there's some dirt and there's a couple bases out there. I think that would be the only tutoring that I have to offer. But I wish I could help. But if you send me the question, I could probably send it to my wife, and she could probably figure out or help you what you need to do, because she's the boss when it comes to tutoring the kids and homework and all that other good jazz. I'm usually trying to get him out of homework so we can go outside and shoot basketball or play some PlayStation or something like that. So I'm the wrong guy to ask about algebra, but I appreciate the question.
Our last question this week comes from Molly. She says, okay, Pete, you asked for it. My husband is on the road a lot and is finding it hard to stay in touch and give the kids more time. I want our kids to know their dad better. What are some ways that you can suggest to him to do this?
It's a great question, but it's an easy question because I'm in the same boat as he is, and I get up with my kids every morning, and FaceTime is huge in our family to where I don't know if they have FaceTime or video chatting or whatever it is, but I try to get up every morning and see them off to school. I call them when they get back from school. As far as I'm usually at the ballpark, so I'll talk to them before school, before practices. And then, I'll usually try to call them before the game, before I go out. Obviously it's too late. Like last night I got to call them before bedtime just because we played a 1 o'clock game. But when we played a 7 o'clock games, they're an hour ahead of us, so it's usually too late. But, I just try to video chat as much as I can or send my son a text message or send my daughter a text message with iPads and iPhones and all that good jazz. But, I just try to do the best job I can, and the more I can see him, the more I can talk to him, the better feel you get as far as what's going on in their lives, and even if you're traveling, I can still pick up the phone and talk to them by video chat, and I think that's been a game changer for our family to where when I'm not there, I try to be there as much as I can. I mean, my wife will she'll stream his game, as far as we'll video chat. I'll be able to watch his at bats. I'll be able to watch my daughter's soccer game. So I'm there. I'm not there physically, but I'm there just, watching on the camera all the time and just trying to, help them out in any way I can. But it's actually easy to do, but from a dad's end, and I got no problem with it. It just takes a little effort, maybe getting up a little earlier than expected, and you can always go back to bed. But it's something I want to do and I enjoy doing.
Great advice. Thanks for joining us this week, Pete.
You got it, man.
We want to thank Manager Pete Rose Jr. for joining us on Fan Interference this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Wichita Wingnut skipper, please send them to us at askpete@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's askpete@minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions to us by Sunday evening so we can give Pete a little time to review them before we record the show. I'm Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report. I'd like to thank you for joining us this week, and we'll look for you next week on Fan Interference.